record this one and share that. Before I hand it over to Dave, though, I want to invite everyone to turn their screens on. There is a 1 in 4 chance that these students that are here with you are going to be in your first year class and possibly in your peer group. So as our conversation goes on and we invite you to ask questions, we'd love to see faces and hear your voices as well too. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave. And again, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you're here. I hope to see more of your faces, and if there's any luck at all, we're going to see each other's faces on campus this fall instead of on a screen. So that's what we're hoping for anyway, and that's what we're working hard for. Believe it or not, the faculty are meeting almost every day, all summer long. There are working groups trying to make sure that the rooms are safe and that the courses can work, and we're figuring out ways to blend our courses with face-to-face meetings and this kind of meeting, and we're going to make it work. We're determined to make it work, so that will be great. So my name is David Crowe, and I'm an English professor. I've been in the English department for 31 years now, but going strong. I have no plan to quit anytime soon. I've taught in the honors program for many years, and I have to tell you, they are my favorite courses. And one of the things I'd like to do this evening is to tell you why they're my favorite courses and why I think they'll probably become some of your favorite courses too. I also want to make sure that when you are done tonight, you have a good sense of what we try to do in the honors program. And I also want you to hopefully feel a little bit more excited even about joining the honors program, because there are probably things about it that you don't know yet that are going to be really helpful for you to know. In just a few minutes when I'm done talking, there's going to be a chance to ask a bunch of questions. And at that time, if you would like to unmute and go ahead and introduce yourself when you ask your question, that would be great. It would be wonderful if we could use this time to actually begin to know each other a little bit better. By the way, my specialty is 20th century American literature. I just put out a book on Hemingway and Ho Chi Minh, and which I hope you will buy. You can look it up on Amazon. And I guess I'm just absolutely fascinated with the writers who went and lived in Paris in the 1920s. So that's what I fell in love with 35, 40 years ago, and we'll see what you fall in love with in terms of ideas coming up. So let's start with this. I'm going to describe the general course of the honors program to you in just a couple of minutes, but I want to start with more personal stuff first. There's a reason that honors courses are my favorite, and there's a reason that honors students look back on the program with so much fondness. And this is the main thing. When you are in the honors program, you're with a cohort of students who you are seeing all the time. And not only are you seeing each other all the time, in other words, sharing classrooms with each other, and then going out to, have lunch together afterwards and that sort of thing. But not only are you doing that, but you're also exploring ideas together. And I think that's a really powerful thing. You're going to get to know a lot about your fellow students, because they're going to lay themselves out there when they give their opinions about a piece of reading that's been done, or when they talk back to the professor about an opinion that they've heard in class and that sort of thing, which is very typical of honors students. You guys tend to be very verbal people, which is good. That's great. And in fact, our classes typically are discussion oriented for that very reason. We want to hear from each other. We want to set ideas against each other. We want to put them into play. That's part of what we do. So you're going to get to know each other really well. And what happens is that you end up, in a sense, pledging your own combination of fraternity and sorority. At Augie, you can go ahead and pledge an actual fraternity and sorority if you want to, and that's a great way to make a certain kind of friends if you want to. But that's going to happen to you automatically just by virtue of your being in the honors program. You're going to be with a lot of other students who are like you. And this is why we interviewed you. We wanted to find out if you are the kind of student that would enjoy the honors program. It wasn't so much that we were weeding out people as it is that we were trying to find the people who were going to be most comfortable with each other and studying the ideas that we study. So what we were looking for, now I can tell you because you're in, what we were looking for was pure curiosity and a willingness to confront any ideas, and a willingness to take on any reading that's put in front of you. And it was just a general sense that your curiosity overrides any, I don't know, balkiness that you might have about academic life. The reason that works is because that's what your professors are like. Most of us got excited about ideas when we were about your age. And that's when we decided, oh, I'm going to graduate school. I'm getting a PhD. I want to do this my whole life long. I want to talk with bright, healthy people about all kinds of ideas and make a life out of that. And then, by the way, have your summers off too. So that's another benefit. Your professors actually work within certain guidelines to create honors courses. But what they do is they put their own spin on those courses. And this is important for you to know. The Augustana honors courses are meant to be interdisciplinary. And what that means is that you aren't just getting your professor's favorite ideas pushed at you hard. That's not what's going to happen at all. Your professor very well may introduce you to ideas that are central to his or her career. For example, when I teach in honors, I almost always teach a philosopher named Kierkegaard because he's very important to me and I know a lot about him. So that happens in my courses. But what I do is I try to combine an introduction to Kierkegaard with, say, philosophers who had very different ideas than Kierkegaard. Or if I have, say, a religiously oriented reading on the one hand, I'll make sure that there are other readings that come from more of a secular or doubting point of view. So you see, what we try to do is we try to make sure that there's an open conversation of ideas in the classroom. And your professors are going to be really adept at doing that, because the ones who choose to teach in honors, the ones who, say, walk away from a disciplinary course that they might be assigned otherwise and that would be very easy for them to teach, they do it because they like hanging out with people like you. And they do it because they love ideas. And they do it because they want to share those ideas as actively as they can. So that's the sort of general spirit of the honors program at Augie. Make sure to jot down any questions you have as I keep talking. I'm not going to go on that much longer, but I want you to make sure that you can answer, you have the questions that you want when the time comes. Okay, so that's the general spirit of the honors courses. What happens in the first year? You are going to take an honors 101 and an honors 102 course in fall and spring semester. Between those two semesters, you're going to have a January term, which is going to allow you to do something entirely different. You can choose from the courses that are available to you. But in those two semesters, you're going to take 101 and 102. This 101 is definitely a writing course, among other things. And that is for this reason. Every single student who comes to Augustana, in order to get a liberal arts education, is going to have their writing and their communication skills worked on. You're going to be challenged to improve in those areas, and you're going to get good, because that's what happens. If you graduate from Augie, you're going to have those skills. So we get you started on writing skills, but your professor is also going to have content in the course that is related to his or her special interests. And you're going to get deeply involved in conversations about those things. And when you write your papers, you're going to be writing about those kinds of things. Gwen, what would you add about 101 from your point of view? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So for 101, when you're signing up for classes, especially for orientation and registration, you guys are going to be online, they're all going to look the same. They all are just FYH 101. And that's a way so that you all know that you're all going to take the same course. And when you get in, it's going to be, depending on your professor, what you're going to read. I know one honors course was more about discussion based, whereas mine, we read novels about current issues and how they related to the world today. So for example, we read The Handmaid's Tale and discussed the feminist viewpoint and the dystopian world and how it relates to what we're seeing today. But really, it's a chance for you to get in and get a feel for what college is like, and to know that these people are here to help you no matter what.
Yep, great. That's my understanding too, is that, you know, these 101s, which are very different from the last time I taught in honors. We used to have a science track and a humanities track, and students chose one or the other, but that doesn't happen anymore. We're trying to allow students to get close to the ideas that their professor brings to the class. and there's more openness in that. Now 102 focuses on diversity questions though, doesn't it, Gwen?
Yes, so this year 102, even for just the general first year inquiry classes, they looked at differences, whether it was differences in fiction. I know there was a class on Harry Potter characters, or it was a difference in understanding. So my FYH 102 looked at differences in climate change and how it relates to gender and racism and economic standing, and how to look through different viewpoints and not just a science viewpoint on climate change.
Yep. And as it happens, not only the honors courses, but actually all of the Augustana courses in spring semester, focus on issues of difference. And we saw this summer why that's so important. Obviously, Americans are deeply divided on questions of difference. And it's important for us to learn how, not necessarily to learn a particular attitude toward those things. You're not going to be pushed into a political point of view that's not congenial to you. But the important thing is that you learn how to navigate those differences and to think about them clearly, and to, I guess, learn to be as helpful to other people as you can, no matter what your viewpoint is on these kinds of questions. I think you guys already know that you're going to be reading, does this show up? You know that you're reading this book as the Augie Reads book, and I know that most of the 101 courses in the fall are going to make some use of that book. There are certainly going to be discussions of the book. I know in my sections, my students actually write papers based on the book. So that'll be part of your, I guess, the meaningful part of your education. So let me recap, and then Gwen can add anything she needs to. The first year courses, there are 2 of them, and all of you will be taking those courses because they are simply required of all Augustana College students. They're part of our general education system that everyone needs to complete. And in fact, you probably already know this, don't you, that there's a program review page that you can go to in Arches that shows your progress towards your degree. You will see that there are spaces on that page where these 2 courses are listed, and they will be clicked off when you've completed those courses with a grade. Okay, so that's what everybody's doing. Now, after the first year, you have the option to join the honors minor, and here's how the honors minor works. I guess I need to just sort of describe the difference between a major and a minor in order to do this. Obviously, a major is your central area of study. It's the one you want to carry into the world and say, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at. For English majors like me, it says, I can read, I can write, I can think clearly, I probably have some creativity. You signal these things to the world with your major. Obviously, it's going to be very different from a geology major or a biology major. They're going to signal different things to the world. A minor is a little bit different. A minor says to the world, I got deeply interested in this and I have some expertise in it, but it isn't the central thing that I think about. It isn't the central thing that I do. Now, up until this last year, it wasn't possible to minor in honors, but now it is. And what that would mean is that you would be signaling to the world that you're so interested in ideas that you want to take them on in the broadest way possible. In a sense, what you're signaling to the world is you have a minor in many minors. You have a minor in ideas from many different viewpoints. The current courses in the minor are titled Nature, Reason, Imagination, and Society. And that means, you can tell by the very broad scope of those titles that they're inviting you to think about ideas in a connected way, in an interdisciplinary and connected way with the help of your teachers. Here's something else that's very special about the minor courses. They're all team taught. That means that not every day, but many days, there will be 2 teachers in the room with you, sharing the ideas and bouncing ideas off of each other as well. The reason for that is that the honors faculty don't think of themselves as experts with ideas that they're trying to convince you of. They think of themselves as co-learners with you, who are just as excited about ideas and just as interested in learning new angles on the world that they didn't know before. So that's what typically happens in the honors courses. I need to explain a little bit about what your overall Augustana education is going to be like in order to give you a sense of whether you personally are going to want to opt into that honors minor, okay? The first year courses everyone takes, and they're fulfilling requirements everyone needs. The minor is going to be an elective for you. You're going to decide whether you want to go this direction or not. And by the way, you could just take some of the minor courses and not complete the minor, but that's going to be up to you. It goes this way. About 40% of your education at Augustana is going to be in what we call general education. It's going to include that writing course at the beginning and that diversity course, and it's going to include a language. It's going to include then selections from 6 areas of the college where you choose courses that look interesting to you, but you're going to make sure that they're spread across the social sciences and history and literature and the arts and the lab sciences, etc. Okay, so that's how we make sure that you become a broadly educated, well-grounded, smart person. A major takes up about another quarter of your education, and that means that you have about 1/4 of an education left to decide what you want to do with it. And what many of you may want to do is go ahead and pursue that honors minor, especially if you fall in love with your honors courses, as you very well may do. Now, it could be that you want a second major in some other area. It could be that you have another minor in mind, and it could be that you just want one major. This is what I did in college, just one major, and then I just spread myself across a wide variety of courses that just looked interesting to me. But that's going to be entirely up to you. But you can certainly opt for the honors minor if you want to. Finally, I'm just about done. The last thing we can do in the honors program, if you complete the 4 minor courses, is that you can do a capstone project of your own. And a capstone is really fun because it means that you design basically a course, a college course of your own. And you design a certain product to come out of that college course. You commit to doing a certain kind of research or a certain kind of reading, and to writing up a certain kind of paper or doing some other kind of project. You could act in a play. You could take a trip somewhere that's important to you. There's all kinds of things you can do, but you make that the result of your self-designed course that pursues your curiosity and the questions you care about. And then that concludes the honors minor for you, and you can put that on your transcript for the rest of your life. And that's basically what honors looks like at Augustana. Yeah, I think I've said enough. I think we should open things up to questions now. I think first of all, Gwen should react to what I said, and then the rest of you can go ahead and bring your faces up and unmute and ask any questions you want after you introduce yourselves. Gwen?
Really, all of that you said was wonderful. The entire program is set up for you to work with it. You don't have to commit to it on day one. You can take your time, go through the first year courses, and then decide. And really, it's here for you no matter what. And it's not here to give you any of those ideas, like Dr. Crowe said. It's here to help you think broadly and know how to work with other people who may have differences and be able to stand by your viewpoint or maybe even change it in a deeper understanding of it.
Well put. I agree. So who has questions? Oh, it's just like my classes. Everyone's nervous on the first day and doesn't talk, and then within 3 days, I can't make them shut up. This is what happens.
Here, I've got a question.
Okay.
So, I was wondering when we actually make this decision to go ahead with this or not. Like, when does that exactly occur?
Have you registered yet?
Yeah, I have, and they have you do some course selection, but it's vague in how they set it up. It looks like it's just like a request, and then someone else contacts you later, but I haven't heard back from them or anything like that to actually solidify things.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it. Yeah, I believe that once you get online and go ahead and register, you're committed to the courses. Our understanding is if you got invited to this meeting, you are in the honors program, and that means that, and I don't think it should matter that much to you right now, because you're going to take a 101 as any student does, and you're going to take a 102. We're just giving you the chance to take the 101 and 102 with these other students who are much like you. So I think, that's something I would encourage you to stay with, and I think you're probably already registered for that. Oh, I can't say for sure. Wendy, do you have an idea about that?
Yes, everyone who is invited to this session, the registrar's office has you listed as FYH honors students, and that's where they're going to place you unless you come away from this conversation thinking this is not what I want to do. Hopefully it's not, but you are in, and then for you to decide if you want to be in the interdisciplinary honors minor starting in your sophomore year, you've got some time to decide that. Really, you don't even need to know until you register for your fall semester for your sophomore year. So like Gwen said, just take it slowly and see if this is a good fit for you.
Yeah. And one thing I can promise you is once you get to the minor, if you want a spot in the minor, there will be a seat for you. You know, in a lot of courses at Augustana, you have to kind of compete for your spot. Somebody might get there before you and take the seat. That doesn't happen in the honors program. There's room for you, and you're going to continue with whatever you want to study as far as you want to go. Okay, who's got another question?
There are some students that put a question in the chat, so I'm gonna read those off for you to answer. From Will Fern, and hi Will, welcome. How much work will we do in an average week? And then Addie Larson asks, so this may be kind of a complimentary question: is it difficult to balance a varsity sport and honors courses?
Okay, all right. Well, let me do the second question first. I've had lots of athletes in honors courses, and they haven't spoken about any difficulty at all. In fact, in many of them, I think, seem to do better because their coaches are helping them with their study habits and their discipline. In fact, a lot of students come to me with these sheets throughout the term that have me weekly or every other week confirm that the student is staying caught up with work and doing well. So I think that tends to help. But no, I've never seen athletes have a problem with honors courses. And that actually helps me to answer the other half of the question too. Are you working really, really hard in an honors course? No, I wouldn't say you're working that much harder than you do in any other course on campus. Some of the courses might be a bit more ramped up than others, but they're all going to be reasonable, because one of the things that your professors are good at is knowing exactly what students need and what they can handle and what they're willing to put up with, quite frankly. We simply can't make you so busy that you're miserable. That wouldn't be sensible. We want you to have a good, healthy, balanced life on campus, and that means we're going to challenge you, we're going to keep you very busy, but it's all going to be manageable.
And I can jump in too. From my experience, I felt like while it wasn't saying, okay, here is a paper that's due the next time, you have this much reading, it was your expectation that this is what you have to do. And then it was all of us in my class, at least, and myself included, we felt like we wanted to get the work done. We wanted to be at the top of our game, to walk into class and know what we're going to discuss, what questions we had. So I feel like it's not only that the I'm sorry, I'm looking at questions too, that the amount of work that the honors program gives you is going to be more, it's whatever you want to push yourself to do. So if you want to be someone that walks in knowing what's going to happen, chances are you're already in the honors program. So you're going to be able to do okay and understand everything that you have and be able to be involved in sports or music or any other things on campus.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yep, your interview should have confirmed that you're a pretty high achieving student, so we're not too worried about you handling the workload. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go. If you're seeing the chat, you can read it as easily as I can. Sorry.
I don't think I am.
How does J-term work is a question from Sarah Stelzer. And after, Dave, you have a chance to answer this, I want Gwen to also comment on something that her FYH fall semester class did during J-term with the Handmaid's Tale book, because I thought that was a pretty cool thing.
Okay, I'm interested in hearing that one too. Yeah, I'll give you two examples actually from my own J-term experience. But basically it works this way. J-term is a entirely different term from the other semesters, because the idea is that you're supposed to be able to explore something that's a very personal interest, or explore something that you didn't even know was going to be an interest of yours, and to do it in a very intense way. J-term lasts only 3.5 weeks long. You go to class for just a few hours, usually in either the morning or the afternoon, and the rest of the day you do your homework and otherwise enjoy your life. And so last year in January, I took 22 students with my wife to Norway, and we went into hospitals and schools to find out what the welfare society is like in Norway. And we also cruised fjords and hiked in mountains and shopped for sweaters and did all those kinds of things too. And then next year, and it was good that it worked out this way because I don't think I want to fly anywhere anytime soon. But next year, I'm going to do an on-campus course on Shakespeare and film. So we'll read a few of Shakespeare's plays and then watch film versions of them in class. So that gives you an idea of the kind of thing that might be available to you. And Gwen, what did you do?
I took an economics course, so I'm not an economics or business person, but it was a course that was through the public health major. So it was a way for me to get a major course out of the way that I may not have wanted to take for the full 14 weeks. And so it was helpful that it was the one thing I was focused on. I was able to go to the class, be involved in the discussions and the lectures, and have any questions going forward, and then have time fully focused to that. And I know a few other people that maybe aren't science people that decided to take physics or just a general science class so they could get it out of the way and enjoy it. But on the other hand, I know that people took film classes. I know the Shakespeare and film one was one of my friends that they tried to get in it but couldn't. But there's so many other film classes that you wouldn't think would be, you know, a class you would normally take, but it would be one to really look out for and hopefully be a part of if you can.
Yep.
Okay, so for my J-term experience that Wendy and Kelley was talking about, so like I mentioned before, we read The Handmaid's Tale, and in November, the sequel came out from Margaret Atwood. So our professor told us that if we read it over Christmas break, that during J-term, we could all come back and go out to eat and discuss the book again. And it turns out that a majority of our class actually read the book, and so we were able to go out to a pizza place downtown Rock Island and have pizza, catch up about how J-term was, how our Christmas breaks was, and then what we thought of the book. And I felt like it wasn't just an assignment. I was looking forward to it the entire J-term, and I even got the book and read it in 2 days. I was so excited, and I had everything written down. And so it was just another chance to connect with those people in the honors program and the honors professor. And it wasn't just for one class. We have now a connection going forward that I could see any of them and know like, oh, you were there. I could talk to you about this. Or even the professor that I could go and ask her questions about my schedule or anything that's going on, and she would be there to help. So
yeah,
the honors program is a family of sorts.
It is a family. I should have mentioned this earlier. I have honors students who send Christmas cards every year. Dozens of them who are really, really good friends. Some of them go back 25 years. They used to babysit my kids when they were toddlers. Yeah, you get very, very close in these classes. It's a personal thing. Yeah. Whose question is next?
There is a question from Haley Weiss. So what was the course selection form for exactly? And I think that's more of maybe an orientation and registration question, but Dr. Crowe, I don't know if you did any first year advice.
I didn't. I could only guess what that is, so I don't know if I should actually try to answer that.
Yeah, so just from this perspective that I know is that you had some choices of classes that you would be able to register for, but there were some classes that everyone had to take, like everyone either takes FYH, which you're all in, or that FYI course. So that's kind of a standard type of thing. And then course selection, if you need to fulfill your foreign language requirement, et cetera, those are the types of things that they're going to most likely register you for. So if you're referring to the course selection where you kind of had that list of classes where they'll put you in, if you've not yet had your appointment with your academic advisor, I know that they're trying to get those scheduled for folks by the end of the month if you've completed all your registration and orientation steps. So my 2 cents. So go ahead and ask questions. How does the honors, this is from Addie Larson again, how does the honors program work with those who graduated high school with an associate's degree?
It really doesn't make much difference because even if you're transferring in credit that you've already earned elsewhere, The general education courses at Augustana still apply. And certainly 101 and 102 apply. So the first year honors is absolutely needed by everyone. And even if you bring in credit, that won't change anything. Now, it will change things later on. It might mean that you're going to have more room in your schedule to do different things because you've already earned some credit that you don't have to spend time on campus. But that will be a benefit to you that comes to you later.
All right, I have a question. So I took College English 101 and College English 102 as a high school junior and senior, and we did like a variety of different papers. I was wondering like what kind of papers to be expected in the honors program, or is that like different from class to class? Because like we did like my first project this year, we did like a 10-page research paper. It was kind of dreadful, but we did that. And then the second semester we did a 20 to 24-page research multi-genre paper, which was completely different.
Yeah.
So like I didn't know if there was a variety or if it was kind of like structured papers.
You know, in my experience, it varies from teacher to teacher so much. It's really hard to say. Some teachers, for example, really believe in smaller exercises that you have to work hard on, that they're not asking you to work on big papers and that sort of thing. Maybe only one larger paper in a first year course or something like that. Others, like me, for example, I'll have my students write 3 full papers in 2 full drafts. So it's 6 papers over the course of the term. And the nature of the assignment varies. I try to make sure that there's room for the student to choose something the student's interested in, but it varies. I think I kind of have to ask you to trust us on this one in one sense. You're kind of, what your question implies, hey, haven't I kind of already done this? Do I have to keep doing it? And I can only say that there is a difference between high school and college level intellectual demands. And the kinds of questions we're going to ask you to take on and the kinds of sources that will allow you to use as you take on those questions, that does get ramped up in college. Also, our first year writing courses orient you to college level research skills in general, and specifically to our library and some of the online resources and other concrete resources that we have. So I think you're going to find that the courses are useful to you. And part just because there will also be additional readings. Apart from just having you write papers, you're going to be doing reading to prepare for those papers. And that should be new reading to you, you know, something that you haven't encountered before. So I hope you'll find it really useful. Does that help? Okay, good. Nice picture, by the way.
Question.
Yes.
So what are some other examples of books we would get to read in the honors program, and how would work that we do and discussions we have differ from what someone who's not in honors would read and would talk about with their own class?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, in some ways, the content in honors is not that different from other classes, except that there is this difference. If I were going to teach, say, an Intro to Lit course, I might assign over the course of 14 weeks, maybe 8 novels or something like that. And you'd be reading pretty steadily, you know, 75 to 100 pages per class session. And you'd be focusing on literature the whole term long. You'd learn a lot about literature and the history of literature in a class like that. In an honors class, you might start out with a work of literature or even 2, but you might very quickly go from there to looking at paintings, listening to music, looking at scientific backgrounds or historical backgrounds to the fiction and that sort of thing. In other words, that's where that interdisciplinary thing comes in. We're going to ask you to stretch yourself and to look at how ideas are approached by different kinds of minds with different kinds of emphasis. So that would be one central difference. I have to say, I mean, in many cases, I've spoken with non-honors students who are being challenged just as much as you honors students will in your classes. We're not necessarily pointing you up as extra special students who get to do more. We're simply giving you an opportunity to show your peer curiosity while you're working just as hard as the other students on campus. Is that helpful? Yeah, I like your Augie pennant there, by the way. Nice job.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So one question I had, you might have covered it, I might have missed it, but the like the one semester FYH 100 class, just what is that? I know it's like more of like an advising type class, but what kind of stuff would we do in there?
Yes, it is. It is very much an advising class. It's really an opportunity. I think I'm going to have Gwen talk about this because she's been through it and I have not. I can tell you the principle of it is to make sure that you have regular appointments with a dedicated advisor who's helping you through your entire first year of college and is pointedly going to help you with some college level skills that you need in order to succeed in all of your classes. Gwen, what would you add to that?
So for mine, it was a way to make sure that our transition to college was going okay. It wasn't about, okay, let's make sure you know how to write this paper. It was really coming together to say, what are you struggling with? What can we talk about? So we had individual meetings, even on Welcome Week, we had an individual meeting to go over a schedule and just have someone to talk to. Not in the chaos, not in all the chaos, or just, you know, as you keep going, you could just sit down and talk to one person. And so through that, it's a 1 credit course, so you just meet once a week. We had a few writing assignments, one that looked at a failure of ours, that how are we going to fix it going forward, or a funny story, just simple things that we wanted to talk about and get out of our heads. And then in the end, it was a way for us to connect with our honors group once again and know that someone else is on our side as we're getting used to the first semester of college.
Yeah. David, I want to add one more thing too, and that is that you put your finger actually on one of the real strengths of Augustana and one of the real differences between us and a lot of other places, and that is we take our advising really, really seriously. For example, when you come for Welcome Week, you have a dedicated appointment with your advisor the first or second afternoon you're on campus to make absolutely certain that you're properly registered for everything, that that you've got the right courses, that you're ready to go. And we take care of our students that way. And then we have our office doors open for hours every week. We expect students to come and visit us and talk with us. And whenever you have an anxiety or concern, you can come in and your advisor will help you work through that. We even have an electronic system that allows us to send messages back and forth specifically about attendance and workload and other concerns that we have. So we track our students very carefully, not in a helicopter way, but in a way that ensures that they're going to succeed. So they're really important.
All right, we have a question from Victoria. She says, do honors students get to come early during Welcome Week?
Not that I know of. No, I think you're going to be treated pretty much like every other student at Augustana. I hope this sounds good to you, but I even have a little story to tell about that. We don't, for example, as some schools do, house our honors students together. You're going to be mixed with all kinds of other Augie students. And the reason that we believe in that is that we think you should consider yourself to be an Augie student, not an Augie honors student. You can identify with both, but you should definitely feel that you're part of the larger community and that you're bound together with all the other students on campus. So that's one reason that we ask you to mix and mingle, and that's one reason why you're going to show up on exactly the same day as everyone else. And I hope it's a nice, cool day as you move into your dorms.
To go off that question real quick, during Welcome Week, you have peer groups, so it's specifically groups of people that you work with throughout the week, and you get to know them, and those are people you have each day are actually the people that are going to be in your FYH class, so you start to know them on Welcome Week, and then we'll be able to go into your class on the first day knowing them and feeling that sense of comfort that you're not just a whole new situation once again.
Yep.
Awesome. So another question from Micaiah Decker. Does that mean FYH is similar to a support system / network for incoming students? I think we're referring back to the 100 session and the advisor. Or is it more of an advising situation that is closer to being one-on-one?
Well, my answer would be this. It's definitely, emphatically a set of college courses. I mean, it's you and a professor working through ideas and skills in a really intense environment, and that's the core of an honors course. However, having said that, we do some, I hope, smart things. We make sure, for example, that your advisor is an honors professor and one that you're probably assigned to. So that means that you're seeing that person and getting to know that person more intensely than you might otherwise. So there is definitely support for you, but to be honest, we don't think you people need too much support. One of the things that you've shown across your academic lives is that you can get up to speed and do things right on your own. And we kind of expect that, but the resources are there, offices all over campus and professors with doors open to make sure that you feel comfortable with your education as you move through it.
All right, thanks. And then Victoria has the question, does this program have any conflicts with other programs like PACE? So, and actually PACE will happen the few days before Welcome Week starts. So I'll just answer that to say, no, there's no conflict at all. And the more opportunities you have to be involved in these other programs that Augustana offers, just is really going to help you with adjustment to college life. So that's awesome that you're thinking about that.
We're pretty well aware of the conflicts, and we avoid the ones that are going to be a problem, and the others we help you work through. You know, for example, if some of you want to become teachers, you're going to find that in your sophomore year you get involved in the education program, which is a very, very busy program. It's going to be harder for you, perhaps, to do the honors minor, but see, we would work with you to make sure that you can do it if it's what you want to do. So yeah, we're pretty aware of those kind of conflicts. Who's next?
I have a question. How individualized would you say the honors college advisors are? Like how many are there in total?
Oh, how many are there? I don't know for sure. I would guess. Well, I put it this way. When you advise as a first-year student, you're usually in a group of only about 14 students. So one professor to 14 students, that should give you an idea of how much attention you're going to get. Certainly, I've got hours every day that I could devote to my advisees. So yeah, you'll get all the attention you want, I think. Is that what you were after? Okay.
Yep.
Good. Good. Currently, the honors minor courses are kind of low enrolled, so you actually would be in classes with maybe only 12 students. That might be attractive to some of you. You really get an intense sense of each other in a class like that. So I think you're going to find the small class sizes a real advantage at Augustana, particularly in a COVID semester. I'm afraid small classes are going to be an advantage. Who's next? Well, Wendy, did we exhaust them?
I think so. We're coming up on time, which is just a perfect way to wind this up. Lexie Stevens commented to the group, small classes are always nice. So absolutely. And that's something that Augustana is known for anyway, and to have the type of opportunities with other students who really like to think about ideas and challenge themselves. This is just such a great program for that. I am going to put Dr. Crowe's email in the chat. So if there are some other questions that you have after this event, or maybe you felt not as comfortable talking in the group about it, feel free to reach out to him. You probably have my email, but I'll add mine as well. And as I'm doing that, I have one more question that was added to the chat, and we'll make this our last one for tonight. How will students access different reading materials throughout the year? Will we have to purchase copies for some?
Yep, we certainly ask you to purchase some of your books. Other readings will be posted on the online meeting site called Moodle. Do you know what Moodle is? There might be handouts and that sort of thing that get posted to Moodle. We might sometimes direct you to readings that are already online and that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a certain amount of book buying that needs to happen. And some students who find it challenging to pay for those books use libraries or other means to find affordable books, but we work with you on that.
And I think for me, I liked having actual books so I could annotate and have sticky notes and have questions that I felt like I could bring into class and know what I was talking about. But some people enjoy online, so it all depends on the person.
I really think it's important to buy books if you can. Owning your books is a really important thing, but you do what you have to do. Thanks, everyone. It was really a pleasure to meet you, and I hope that you will follow up and send emails to me if you want to. Wendy, thanks for arranging this.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I just invited students. A student had suggested they start a group chat, and I am old and I have kids, and I know that you guys do your thing. So if you wanted to drop your social here in the chat and share it, or if you want to go on to the Facebook class of 2024 and kind of do a shout out to those that joined the group today, that might be a little bit easier way to do it. But okay, you guys are chatting amongst yourself. I'll leave this open for a few minutes so that you can chat with each other privately or chat, and I'll just stay here for about 5 more minutes and just leave it open if you wanted to take your mics off and chat with each other, students, or keep adding information in the chat. But I'll be respectful for Dr. Crowe's time and say just thank you so much for joining. And Gwen, thank you also for
Thank you, Gwen.
Time out of your busy summer to help us as well too. So I'll leave this open for about 5 more minutes if folks want to take their mics off and cameras on and or put their mics on and chat with each other. So
I'll be leaving. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you virtually.